Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Little Girls on Tour This. I am your host, self-love coach Lydia McCartney, and I have a really exciting episode because I am joined by another absolute self-love queen, Gina. She is a self-love expert. I can finally say that she's an author because in the last few days she has a hard copy of her new book coming out. She is a manifestation queen and she's just basically all of the self-love vibes rolled into just like a beautiful, delicious blonde goddess. And she's also been one of my mentors on my journey. So I've worked with Gina before. So it was really amazing to have her on the podcast and have a conversation between two, I just call us self-love experts. So yeah, let's dive right in. Hello, Gina. Welcome to the podcast.
Ah, Lydia. So happy to see you.
I know. I feel like it's been a million lifetimes since we last spoke, and people know my relationship with you, and I've openly spoken about, you were the very first coach I ever worked with. You are part of my journey and getting me to where I am. So it's so nice to have you on the podcast and be able to talk to you. But just introduce yourself.
Well, first of all, I am bowing at you, Lydia, for everything you've created. I think you are just an absolute whiz at this stuff and a born natural self-love leader. And
thank you.
I just love everything you're doing, and I'm so proud of you and happy for you. And honoured to have been a part of that journey. So thank you for having me on your amazing podcast.
Mm-hmm. So introduce yourself. You are the self-love queen.
I am, yes. Well, one of. I'm in good company today. I am Gina Swire, self-love expert, mentor, and manifesting queen. I'm on a mission to help 1 billion women fall madly, deeply, truly, obscenely in love with themselves and get everything they want in their life. And it's going really well. Yeah, it's like a 7-year journey so far. Well, much more than that, but officially 7-year journey of helping women with this stuff. And I love it. I love the impact, the results that it gets. I love helping women get a pay rise in a pandemic. And I love helping people lose weight by not talking about food or exercise. And I love watching people manifest their partners having not had a date for 10 years, just from focusing on self-love and just getting in the goddamn love frequency.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And that's one of the biggest things I learned from you, I think, from our time together, was understanding the full spectrum of self-love and actually knowing how to embody all of that. It was such a process, good God, especially last year when we were working together in that mastermind is when I was going through like a million things. And I do love your honesty about that.
Ditto.
I know. Yeah, you too. Oh, it's never ending, is it?
It's it's a whole thing. I think, I don't think we signed up to the easy life, Lydia. No. I think we've gone for the long and winding journey home. But it's so fascinating. It's never boring. Like, I literally can't even remember the last time I was bored. I'm just full of life. And I really do think that as humans, we crave everything. We don't we think, our ego thinks we just want happiness and easy and working and, like things are working and flow and ease and grace. But actually, we are weird people that crave these dark things to happen. That's where the self-saboteur comes in. And if everything's going well, and we know this from looking at the women in the mastermind last year, as soon as things start going well, people are getting their first 20k months and all these new clients and amazing things, and then they get ill or something happens, or they lose it all, or they make a bad investment and they kind of sabotage themselves. And I really honestly believe, from deeply studying shadow work and all of this, like the dark in the life, is that we're kinky motherfuckers and we just like it all. We want a bit of we want a bit of spanking every now and again, and we want a bit of misery, and we want to rise from that, and we want it all. So I think self-love is so much less about, you know, the old school self-love, the self-love I thought I was getting into, which I thought I'd signed up to, the, you know, pedicures and bubble baths and whatever.
Yeah.
I've definitely subscribed to the full human spectrum self-love, and just learning to be okay, and not just okay, but just like revel in it. It's great.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the thing I've realized with self-love. And I think when clients come into the world of self-love, they don't quite grasp that element of it. But I always say self-love is actually in the dark moments. That's when self-love matters the most. And it can be difficult to, I think, comprehend that, because self-love, how it's marketed, is, oh, it's all pink and it's gorgeous and it's like you love yourself. But fucking hell, it's so hard.
Well, that was the first time I actually found self-love or felt self-love, because I'd been hearing about it for so long and thinking, well, how do you get that? Like, how do you do it? I want some of that. And it was really like after I quit my modeling career, and I was really at a crossroads. I'd, you know, spent 15 years with this inner bitch voice, like telling me how useless and rubbish and cellulite I am. Even though I was really successful on the outside with modeling, I just still pretty much always felt like a failure. And I felt like if I got booked for a modeling job, which was most days, sometimes twice a day, then in my head, no other blonde model was available, and so they ended up with me. That's what I used to think, which is so sad, because these guys are actually just picking me for what they wanted. And so after I quit all that, I moved back to Manchester, because I was living in New York and I had all these, you know, celebrity friends and flying all over and that kind of lifestyle. And as soon as I quit that and came back to Manchester, bought a little cottage in a park, and basically didn't have any things anymore, didn't have any furniture, didn't have any designer bags anymore, just wanted rid of everything, and stocked my house with organic food and like organic products, because I had this real urge to be pure. And I'd been so unpure for so long, doing all the extra fun, unpure activities that I used to do, still like to do occasionally now. Not even occasionally. Anyway, that's another podcast. But in my extracurricular activities have definitely broadened of late. Anyway, so I had this real desire to be so pure. And I went on this purification process. So I went celibate, I went vegan, went completely organic. I was growing my own food, like all the things. And it was in that I quit all my friends as well, all friends. And mostly the people I spent the most time with were men, because I would have like a bench of men that I could date anytime, that I would never let that close to me, but they were always there, like giving me validation and being like loving me, which is all part of their journey as well, because they felt like they weren't enough, and I kind of made them feel like they weren't enough, which is mean, because I'm trying to feel enough. We're all trying to feel, but all these weird, you know, wounded, shadowy aspects of ourselves playing out. And at some point I was so lonely, and as an extrovert and as a manifesting generator and as like someone who loves to be with people and connect and playful, and I was just on my own in this house in Manchester thinking, what the hell have I done? But it's right. And it was so miserable. Like I was on the floor in child's pose, begging for a sign from the universe many times, many days. And it was excruciating. And that's when I found self-love, because I got this little hit, this little voice that just kind of said, look, you have been looking in all the wrong places. You've been searching, with men, mostly with men, drinking, traveling, being a high achiever, whatever it is, all these things. I've been really, really good at all of those things. And it's miserable. I was miserable. So actually underneath all that was just, I realized that I could actually start filling up from within. And I didn't, it's so simple. Like people are like, yeah, but how do you do that? And it's like, you don't even need to do anything. It's already doing you. You just need to know it's there, so all of a sudden I knew it was there. And really since that day, I've had self-love, and also things like, because I was obsessed with my body in a negative way, even though my ego also thought I was the tits as well, so it was like this playing off in my head of like, I know I'm awesome and I'm better than everyone. That's what my ego wanted to say. Like, I'm the best model there is. And then also there was this crying girl underneath it thought she was nothing. And so it just kind of disarmed it all. And in that space, I realized that I'd had it all the time and I didn't need anything on the outside to be happy. So for quite a few years, well, in that space, in fact, my body issues became irrelevant. It wasn't that I fell in love with my body. And this is a question I get asked all the time. You probably do too. How do I love my body? Like, how do I start loving my body when I've hated it my whole life? And I'm like, actually, I think it's not even accurate to say that. I think it's more at a certain point of our journey, it just becomes irrelevant. And so at the moment, in this body harmony group with women who want to lose weight, and at a certain point in this program, they get to the point where they're like, I'm not like looking in the mirror like, you are an absolute goddess and I want to fuck you. It's more, I'm good with what I've got. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, fine. Neutral, acceptance, just peace, and I'm like, yeah, you've actually nailed it. That's where I was as well at first. I was like, this is just it. This is it. This is what we're working with. This is what is here right now. Yes, we can tweak things. Yes, we can change things. Things will always be changing. Otherwise, we turn into a robot. And yeah, this is it. And that's it. It's just irrelevant.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your journey as well. And I think that's what's happened for me over these past few weeks, is because obviously we're having the infection and then having the implant out, and obviously for 3 months I've got friggin' one boob, and I'm like, fuck. But actually what it's made me do is just like, people are saying to me, oh, how are you dealing with that? And I'm like, I just don't pay attention to it. Like, I've took my focus off my body and actually just propelled it everything else I've done, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm not really thinking about it. And sometimes it's hard, well, a lot of the time it's really hard for people to grasp that, like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I'm like, stop overthinking it. You make a decision and you do it every day. You just take the attention off your body. And it's massive when you realize that you can do that. It's like, oh wow, it can be that simple. Even though it's hard, it's difficult, the process is hard. But when you get to the root of it, it's that simple. And self-love is simple.
So simple. It's so simple. I got goosepimples then when you were saying I'm goosepimpling right now. It's so simple. Like, but people they do want to do it and they don't want to do it, because there's these weird things playing out. So it's like you drive in the car and your foot's on the brake and the accelerator at the same time. And it's just like, and that's where most people are. And that's where I was before this awakening, I'll call it, before the lounge floor situation. I was just doing all the right things and all the wrong things all at once. And it was exhausting, draining, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And there was just loads of squealing noises. And that was my life for many years. And then I just basically took my foot off the brake and off I went.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
people are definitely I talk about this all the time. I've been like, I always say that internal conflict that you feel is like when you notice a shift happening, but you're also still very much attached to the person who you was, and there's massive internal conflict, and people don't really know. People think that either, I think like you said, propels people forward or makes people retreat back into a safe space, and they think, oh, actually I didn't know self-love was meant to feel like this, like it was meant to be nice and relaxing and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, what you're experiencing now is self-love. You either like fucking run forward or you stay where you are. It's that simple. What are you gonna do? And they're like, oh God, yeah, it's the journey, unfortunately.
Strong. So the ego, the best way, and like I've studied the ego for years and years and years through like yogic philosophy, meditation, all everything talks about the ego. And then recently I'm reading a book by Carolyn Elliott, which is called Existential Kink. Highly recommend it to people that have been on this journey for a while. And it's an absolute jaw dropper. Pretty much all of my friends and clients are reading it or listening to it at the moment. And she just explains the ego as everything you think you are. It's so simple. And it's like, oh yeah. And one of the exercises in the book is to basically look in the mirror every day and say, I am not who I think I am.
Love that. Isn't that a mindfuck though?
Isn't it?
Mindfuck.
And so many times when I'm talking to people, when I'm coaching them, they'll say, no, that's not me. I'm this. And I'm like, anything that you say, no, that's not me, is the ego protecting what is truly you, which you can't see yet and everyone else can see. So like these self-love realizations that I've had along the years, big, profound, like hallelujah moments of like, holy shit, this is what I've been doing this whole time. And now I know what it is. And I tell my best friends and they're like, yeah, did you not see that? And I'm like, it's like obvious, so obvious to everyone else, but our egos want to keep us in that safe Netflix and chill, not growing, not evolving, surviving, yes, but not thriving. So we're all about thriving, aren't we, Lydia?
Yeah, and I think once you lift the veil up and peep your head underneath and see what's possible, you can't put it down and turn your back on it. It's like I'm completely committed to this journey, as are you and have been for many years. And I don't think when I started this journey, I realized what it was and what I was going to be on. I remember you saying to me multiple points last year when we were working together, like, you have no idea. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, whoa, no, I don't. I do not have a clue. Not a clue. And I think you have to, one of the things I wanted to speak to you about was surrendering, and this links in nicely because a lot of people, when I say surrender, they're like, I don't know how to do that and I don't know what it is. And you always speak about that. So for you, when you explain that to clients and you practice that, what is that for you?
Great question. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. It's a fresh off the press example. So you know about this, Lydia, but basically this year I'm in a relationship, and when we first got together, we found out that his ex was pregnant with possibly his baby, possibly not. So for the whole year, I have been manifesting a reality where he isn't the father and it's someone else, and we go on as normal. And which, in personal development, in law of attraction, in spiritual, it's kind of the thing. It's like, yeah, just manifest the reality you want, or like, what do you choose, and let's have that. Anyway, by a certain point, a pregnancy is 9 months. So this was a long journey. And by a certain point, I just felt so exhausted with it. And I got this intuitive hit that was like, you know what, Gina, this is all mapped out for you already. Like, just fucking surrender. And I was like, and I did. And for me, that was dropping micromanaging universal powers. Like, universal powers are gonna direct us guide us, send us, throw us, possibly even launch us onto our path. And we are on a path no matter what we're doing. This was a big download I got a few years ago from medicine. The plant medicines told me, because I was kind of shaming my old life, which was, you know, staying up all night drinking and going to after parties and raving and whatever. And I was sat in Bali in a fully white outfit full of candles with all these like spiritual gurus drinking ayahuasca. And ayahuasca told me, she was like, you know, you're on the path. Doesn't matter how many green juices you have, doesn't matter what clothing you wear, doesn't even matter what the drug of choice is, you cannot get off your path. Do you really think that you have the power over the universe? And I was like, oh yeah, you know, because sometimes you can kind of shame yourself and be like, oh, I've not done my affirmations, I've not done my workout, I've not done this, I'm getting off the path and I need to be on the path to go in that direction. No, I've shown very clearly, like, no, just surrender. You're on the path, it's impossible to get off it. And so just to loop back to my example with this baby, I realized that I'd been micromanaging universal powers by trying to manifest something else. And actually, when I just surrendered, the thing I didn't want to happen, or the don't like situation, happened. And now it's happened, and that's fine. You know, it's just what it is. That was obviously what was meant to happen. And it's not all about me. And so I find we are so self-centered.
Oh my God.
Even the most gorgeous, like my best friend who is not self-centered at all, and she'll be talking about things. I'm like, why are you being so self-centered? Like, it's not all about you. It's about the whole universe. It's so much bigger than you. So basically, to answer your question, surrendering is it's the opposite to manifesting. It's just like being. It's like trusting. It's trusting we're on a path. We're on it, whatever we do. Nothing we can do, whether we choose a green juice or a bottle of Prosecco, is going to get us off the path. We're on it. That's surrender for me.
I love that. I love it, because you know why? I love what you've just said. A lot of people think, I have this conversation so many times, well, if I write it down, it's going to happen and I'm going to manifest it. I'm like, no, it's fucking not. Like, it doesn't work like that. And honestly, you're so naive if you think it does work like that. Like, just because you want something, it doesn't mean it's going to come to you in a little pretty box. Like, unfortunately, every time I've manifested something, and I know you will say the same, or every time I've had growth or success, fucking hell, the lesson that's come along with it has absolutely knocked me off my feet. And it's ebb and flow with everything, isn't it? And I think the situation with me and the surgery and the implant taught me the meaning of surrendering. I didn't want that to happen, and I manifested, and I wrote pages and pages in my journal, please don't happen. And you know what? It happened, but I'm glad it did, because it made me realize, even when you think worst case scenario and you don't want that scenario, it happens, and then you get through it. And you're like, oh yeah, remember when that was worst case scenario? And actually, like, here I am on the other side of it. And I know that's what you've recently spoke about with Vincent and everything that's going on. And that is just huge.
Because there's always mess and message.
Powerful.
Someone in my team told me that the other day, and I was like, I'm going to use that very soon. So yeah, there's always some mess with the message. It always comes in with the message, with the learning. And what you said there, like, you know, you might think you want that, or I might think I want that, and I thought I did want that, but that me isn't me now. It's not my soul me, it's not my eternal me. It was me then, in my pain, in my wounding, in my triggers, being like, I don't want that, like stamping my feet, you know, like I know best. But actually surrendering to it is like, I give it to the angels, I know nothing. Like, I actually like these phrases now of like, we don't know what's good for us. We don't know what we want.
We don't.
Our ego thinks we know what we want. We think we know best, and we don't. That's being self-centered. Just give it up to your higher power, hand it over, and you just live a lot more peacefully.
Oh my God, you do, rather than resisting it.
And all of that energy for like 9 freaking long months. Imagine how much energy leak was going subconsciously, because I know better than this, Lydia. You know that one. I know better than this. Subconsciously or consciously, who knows, going to manifest in this other outcome, which was probably never going to happen, is vast. Like, that drained the hell out of me. And now I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually going to work out really, really well. Great.
Yeah.
Lessons again.
Oh, fucking hell, they never end, do they? I love what you said as well about us knowing better, because I think sometimes, especially for us too, I think sometimes I try and coach myself, and I'm like, I literally teach this stuff, like, why am I doing it? And then I'm like, oh yeah, it's because I'm fucking human as well. And I think sometimes we can get wrapped up in the labels, or we should know better, or we should do this, and the reality is you don't fucking know anything. You just wake up and you go on the journey and you have a laugh along the way and shed a few tears, but fucking hell, there's always a new lesson to be learned, at a new deeper level of growth to be done. So actually, you never know. You just try your best.
Exactly. And that is the journey. That is life. And the last thing I want is to be just in a gorgeous house having a life with no peaks and troughs. Like, it sounds good, but the peaks after the troughs are what makes life. Like, well, not it, the whole thing, the whole journey. And like, sometimes people look at my life and they're like, how are you holding all these projects, this whole relationship thing, coaching all these people, writing a book, doing all the things, traveling around, buying a house, all these things, like, and in 1 week I was like signing a new publisher, moving house, what else, on my moon cycle, having like relationship things, and like all these things that would be like big life things all happen together. And everyone's like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, well, what's the alternative? Like, not doing it? That doesn't seem fun.
Now, you know what's so interesting is someone said that to me recently, because I was doing something and they just messaged me and they were like, how the fuck do you find the time to do all these things? And I was like, you just make time. Like, when you're just connected to yourself, you just make time. And I think also it's like, there's never not time for this stuff. This is the life. Like, the stuff that we say, oh, how do you do that? It's like, but this is living. Yeah. This is the things we want to make time for, even if they seem like we're doing a gazillion things. And I think that's something clients always say to me, oh, I haven't got the time. And I'm like, it's bullshit. Like, don't hit me with that excuse. And you probably feel the same as well. Time is, it's a construct. It's not even real.
Totally. And also, like, I'm not super busy, even though I do a bazillion things. Like, so, I lie in bed till 11 o'clock a few mornings a week, and I have weeks off here, 2 weeks off there, days off, every Thursday and weekends and other times and afternoon. I have so much time. Like, this whole weekend I've just been up in the mountains, like, just hanging out with nature, and people are like, how do you do all this stuff and you're still super chilled? And I'm like, I just do it. Like, if it's in flow, it doesn't take any time at all. Like, if I want to write a magazine article and I have to write it for a deadline, that could take me 3 weeks. But if I have a download of it one night in the middle of the night, I could write it in 15 minutes and it's done. So it's like following that flow. And if you really want to do it, it's done. It's when you don't do it. Yeah.
It becomes difficult.
So what was the other thing I was going to say on that? It went out of my mind. It wasn't important.
Okay. So you just think as well, like, I was talking about this the other day, and I was saying, when you have a level of awareness and all of these little things, I know we both talk about like self-love, and it comes up in a multitude of ways. So even though we're not saying self-love, everything we do comes back to self-love. And I was saying to someone, when you're just connected and grounded in yourself, things are less chaotic. So like, if something's going on where I know years ago when I was in ego and like monkey brain, it was like fucking the end of the world times a million. And now I just sit down and I'm like, okay, bring myself back inwards. And it's not as life's just not as chaotic. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's difficult with the process and the journey. But it comes back to self-love. If you're grounded in yourself, you always have the answer within what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like also the awareness that we don't have to solve everything. Not everything's and we can sit in discomfort. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel rejected. All these things that normally are not okay to feel, or we try to avoid. We do everything to avoid rejection. But actually, if you just enjoy, if you just allow rejection, you can turn it to desire. You can turn it to turn on. You can turn it to fun. Like you can giggle at yourself going through pain, and it becomes part of it, and when you're not avoiding all these things. And that's the thing, sometimes women in my groups, they're like, I'm super stressed. What can I do to make it stop? And I'm like, don't make it stop. Just feel the stress, enjoy it. And they're like, wait, I can do that? Yeah, you can just like fucking thrive on it. And so it's this links in, and I recently interviewed my Indian meditation teacher, Sudhir Rishi. He's amazing. He taught me so much years ago. And I still use like all of his teaching wrapped up in here somewhere. And he always taught me, he's like, yes, Gina, someone dies. Yes, Gina, the world blows up, but you undisturbed. Like it's all going on around, but like inside, you're just observing it. And yes, you're feeling it as well. Because I was so confused at the time. I'm like, yeah, but if someone dies, like, isn't it good that you grieve and you cry and whatever? And he's like, oh, yes, you feel it, but you're undisturbed. And I was like, this is basically like, we're just on a journey all together. And yeah, I love it. I'm fascinated. Oh, that's what I was going to say. When all the best coaches that I know, and the ones I follow, and my friend coaches, and you and me, and people who, we go into this, it's not necessarily a choice. It kind of chooses us and it happens to us. And then, we ebb and flow, but we literally live, breathe, and sleep this. This is our existence. Everything we do back to this. If we're meeting up with old friends we've not seen for 10 years, we're observing it from this way. We're bringing it into what we do with our family. We're taking it into travel, everything. Everyone we meet comes into this sphere. And that's why, like, the business side of it is phenomenal. Like, I love sharing it. I know you love sharing this as well. Yeah. But really, whether it was a business or not, like, it's just life. Like, it's the way we live, and there's no escaping it. And that's why, I'm a rubbish business coach in a lot of ways, because the business part is like kind of the byproduct of just living this life for me. And if I'm earning a shit ton of money, that's a bonus. If I'm like embodying it fully for me, that's where it's at for me. That's the success. That's the business. When I'm teaching that to others, that is the dream. And the business is like a kind of a really nice bonus that I also buzz off. But, there's some people that want business coaching, and if they're not at this level, then they're like really fucked off. Or if they have like high and low months, then they can't handle that. For me, it's not even relevant in a way. I'm just like, yeah, that's good. Great. Let's embody it.
Yeah, I love that. And it's all about the embodiment. And I think you told me that when we done that mastermind last year, you very much, because I was new into business, and I don't think we done a little bit of business coaching, like people come in, but basically we were just about embodying our own process, and we were all going through something. Like, fucking hell, I lost my nan in that, didn't I? So we were all going through it, but we'd all come in and have moments of wins and be like, oh my God, this program or this launch or this is what I've created. And it made me realize that if you embody everything that you are, like exactly what you've just said, that people will magnetize to you, which just means you end up having a business doing it, and it's amazing. But if my business was to go tomorrow, I wouldn't just be like, oh God, I can drop that facade, thank God, that was exhausting. I'd still be embodying it like every single day. It's fucking commitment. It's not easy. It's not easy to commit to it, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And I think that ties me into the last thing I want to ask you, and just your input on manifesting. If you could give one tip to anybody, because you are the queen of manifesting, one tip, what would it be?
Well, the first thing that came to mind is remembering the future. So when people create a vision board or want to go into manifestation, they're like, ooh, what do I want? And that's basically the ego. The ego, like what you think you want, what we just spoke about before. That's like, yeah, I want a Range Rover. Yeah, I want that. Yes, you can have that as well. But underneath it, there is a soul's voice that's already lived this journey. And that is what remembering the future is. So when you can tune in on that deeper soul's voice level, which I'll talk through a little process to get there, that is when you will become a manifesting, well, you're already a manifesting queen, Lydia, but to anyone listening who wants to become a manifesting queen or a self-titled manifesting queen, as I am, then firstly, start calling yourself a manifesting queen or a champion manifesto or whatever variation of that, because that's the first step, like embodying it, telling everyone it. You're already in that field and people start saying it back to you, and people book me for speaking gigs at festivals and like, she's a manifesting queen. I'm like, yeah, damn right I am. Just manifest this because I manifested that title. So yeah, when you start listening to your soul's voice, and so to get out of your way, you really need to go into like some kind of meditation, some kind of meditative state. And I like to fast forward. So if you fast forward to say 5 years from now and imagine yourself walking into your best case scenario home and best case scenario life and best case scenario people and best case scenario wardrobe and feeling and smells and everything, and just see what comes through from that space. And so anything that's real, like I believe that Goddess, who gives us the manifestations, doesn't really love too many orders. Like she likes to rule the roost. She likes to be like, you ordered this guy that was, you wanted a guy who is spiritual and traveling the world and whatever, but I wanted to give you a guy who's corporate and got a kid. So here you go. And in my manifestations, that would have been like, wait, I didn't ask for this. But again, listening to Goddess or listening to our soul's voice, she knows what she wants for you. And so, yeah, it's definitely tapping down into that soul's voice and remembering the future. And so when you are manifesting, if you cannot remember this with all of your soul in the future, probably not for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so I say to my friend, like my friends will be like, well, one of my friends the other day was having a bit of a health scare, and she was like, can you all send some vibes like this? I just want to speak it out. And I just sat with that for a second. And I was like, no, I don't remember this in the future. So I just said that. I was like, I don't remember this as a reality in the future, And she was like, thank you so much for that. That's what I needed to hear. Because I just tuned in and I just, do I remember this playing out in this negative way for her? Or do I remember this other version? And the other version just felt really right. And that's the question, like, does this feel right in my future? And when you come down to that, and it is an intuitive thing, but if you can start to flex that muscle, like for me, I wanted like a Range Rover a few years ago. But like, when I tuned in and asked myself, did I really want a Range Rover? It wasn't actually right for me because I live abroad most of the year. It would sit on my mum's driveway for at least 9 months. Like, it didn't feel right,
Yeah.
I could have it, but it didn't feel right. So that for me is how to manifest.
I love that. So where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me anywhere on the internet.
Everywhere.
Half naked, mostly. If you type my name, Gina Swire, you can catch me on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. I have a podcast called PS I Love Me. I will very soon have a book called PS I Love Me as well. So by the time this comes out, you can probably get a pre-order, and my website is ginaswire.com.
Thank you so much. It's been gorgeous having a catch up. It's been so nice.
I've missed you so much, and we're from the same star, I think, you and I, Lydia.
I know. Thank you so much.
You're doing such amazing work, and I see all your stories, and I literally am your biggest fan. So I'm so happy for you and all your clients.
Thank you. It was nice speaking to you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.